Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and we're back with another build guide video, and today we have the very popular Seele or Seele, however you wish to pronounce it. So some of you might be very quick to notice that I have her at level 1, but it's not because I don't like this character or I don't think she's strong. Rather, I like her so much that I even have E6 of her on my account. And the reason why I actually only have her at level 1 is because I want to clear the game as a free-to-play player so I can create content for the community. In my opinion, there's no point for me to play with all the 5-star characters, clear the game, and then teach you guys this is how you should do it. It's easy as a whale. I want to do it from the ground up in terms of using free-to-play units, and I feel it makes me as a better content creator and helps me grow as well as an individual and a gamer too. So let's first jump into the tracers. I'll leave Lightcones towards the end as there's a big tip that I want to talk about in terms of weapon banner tip for you guys as well. So first things first, in terms of her tracers, she needs generally most of them, and the only exceptions that I want to point out, for example, is this defense boost. Once you have the ability to level it, you could hold off on it a little bit. Defense is not very important for her in terms of a kit because she does have reduced aggro as well. It's nice to have, but if you're running low on resources, this is, I wouldn't say a huge priority to add. And I would definitely add in this one when you can, in terms of the amount of lowering the percentage of being aggroed. And other than that, I think in terms of the major tracers that she has here, all 3 or all 4 of them should be leveled up equally as well. She does damage from her ultimate, her skill, as well as her basic attack. So all 3 should be leveled up. And in terms of her talent, when she enters this buff state after killing a target unit, she also gets this buff state where it increases her damage. And you want to also improve this as well. In most accounts, generally, this character will likely be your highest investment character because she's generally a hyper carry nature as well. So you can just focus on major tracers that we see here, level them up when they can. They are all very useful as well. We have pen increase here. We also have increased action advance after using basic attack, which is indirectly a speed buff to her as well. And this defense, of course, you have to open it because it opens access to crit damage as well as attack, which she really requires as well. So that is the overall general consensus of tracers. Nothing too different, nothing too significantly out of how normal people would be approaching her. But where it gets a bit more trickier and a bit more interesting will be definitely the relics. Here I'm running a 4-piece set on her, Genius of Brilliant Stars. There are other options. For example, if you're in the earlier game, you don't have the ability to farm so much of this set as well, you can always look for something else. The reason why I'm using Genius of Brilliant Stars is definitely because of the quantum damage bonus it gives, as well as the 4-piece is just insanely strong. It flat ups ignores 10% defense of the enemy, and also at the same time, if there's a quantum weakness on them, it makes her even more lethal, as she does an additional 10% defense ignore. So on its own is 10% with 10% quantum damage, but with quantum weakness is 20% with 10%. When you have a character eventually that we will get Silver Wolf, who has a inbuilt ability to drop quantum weakness, this set will also see tons of value for a lot of quantum characters. I'm running Space Sealing Station on the 2-piece here because it gives a flat up wearer's attack 12%, and when her speed is higher than 120, she will gain an additional 12% extra speed. This is very easy to do for Seele because she has an inbuilt speed buff in her kit, as well as if you just put one speed boot on her, she already will be past at 120. She has 115 in terms of base speed, and any boot, even a green boot, will be 6, which will already tip it past the amount. So very strong set for her as well, and she really focuses on herself rather than the alternative. For example, if you are looking for this the Xianzhou Luofu one, where it gives you in terms of HP as well as attack to the rest of the party, not as useful, but if you do have the correct main stat, I think it's also okay to use this one as well. And since we are already on this screen, let's first talk about in terms of what are the main stats for these two that I'm going for. So for here, I have attack here, but I do have, I think, a quantum set which I'm using on the character I'm actually playing, which is Qingque, a free-to-play unit. I have here a quantum damage boost, which I think is better, and if for those of you who don't have this yet, you could always run an attack percentage one first instead. But once you have quantum damage, you want to shift over to it as well. And in terms of the rope, what I'm using is just a straight up attack percentage bonus here. I don't think she really needs anything more than that. She scales very well with attack, and this should ideally be the thing that you're focusing on. Break damage is okay in terms of the main stat if you wanted to, but I do think attack is much better because she's a damage dealer and not a break unit. real quick, I'm going to talk about what other relic sets you can use for Seele, especially in the early game when a lot of us are playing. We will actually be getting quite a lot of like these Musketeer of Wildweed, and what we want to do is actually just put all 4, like consolidate all your best 4 on her and like slap it on your main DPS, which will be Seele in this case. So it gives good attack bonus already, and it also gives increased speed by 6%. That 6% is enough to like top her past that 120 also, so it combos very nicely with the other Xianzhou Luofu set that we see over here. Oh, sorry, the Herta Space Station set that we see here. It tips past this 120 very easily already just with this Musketeer of the Wildwind set. So you guys can just like put all 4 put together, and I will tell you what main stat I'm running right now. So in terms of like the substats I'm looking for, I'm generally looking for attack and crit rate in her kit. Crit rate and attack are more important early on in the game, especially pre-Trailblaze level 65, and that is what I'll be like primarily focusing on. Crit damage is nice to have, but generally her crit rate will definitely improve her a lot more because characters start with very low base crit rate. Even with like some Lightcones, you also won't tip past 50% very easily as well. And note that Seele's skill, like her ultimate, are single instance, which or very very small instances in her other skills as well, which means that you need generally a higher amount of crit rate to get the maximum value. Because the worst feeling is like you pop the ultimate and then you do a non-crit. That will like muddy up your plans a little bit. So that's for the hat. In terms of the glove, I'm also similarly looking for the main stat. For attackers early on, like your DPS characters, I will actually invest a lot more in your gloves. As you can see here for my DPS, on my free-to-play, I want to clear free-to-play, so my DPS Dan Heng, I'm investing in his gloves, and also like Pella, who's also a DPS nature, I'm investing in like their attack-oriented stats, flat stats. So you want to add on the glove as high as you can, because early in the game, flat stats matter more than percentage stats. And for the hat, as you can see here, even Dan Heng's one, I left it at like 3, so you can probably leave this as not very high if you don't really need it, or you have a good shielder and or sustain on your team as well. So those are my thoughts for like the first 2. And in terms of the other 2, I'm running an attack percentage shirt for her, and the boots I'm running a defense percentage because I wanted to complete the set, but I'll actually be choosing to run a speed boot on her if I had this in terms of speed. So a speed boot will be the best in terms of ideal for Seele, because she already has very high base speed, and capitalizing on this additional like 16 speed even at just a purple gear, that already takes her to like 130. Very very fast character, even without her own self speed buffs. Substats, again, the same thing, just focus on offensive substats. I would say attack and crit rate is the most important. I wouldn't mind a bit of break effect as well if you can find those substats too. So overall, those are like what I'm looking for in terms of my thought process. Attack percentage is good, and you will want to improve this one also, this attack percentage, as although it's not as important as flat stats, by the time you hit like Trailblaze 30 to 40, it starts becoming quite relevant already. And now let's talk a bit about Eidolons, because some of you might be interested in maybe pulling 1 copy or 2 copies of this character. Of course, Eidolons are generally a whale trade, or if you have been playing a very very long time and maybe every time her banner comes up, you pull 1 copy of her. So I'm just going to do this real quick for any of you who are interested. In terms of the overall Eidolons, the one that attracts me the most probably will be Eidolon 2, because it allows her to stack up speed boost twice. This is very significant. It makes her move like significantly even faster, and she can be permanently like taking her turns, especially if you're paired with like a Welt or a Dan Heng in your team, which can slow the enemy, or another character like Asta that speeds you up. She really can take a lot of turns and really lap the enemies very very quickly with this E2. E4, by regenerating energy a little bit. I won't say it's very significant, but it's okay, I guess. E1, I think, is probably the most lackluster, although it's nice in terms of less percentage, a slight crit rate stats, but then again, you want to see this one. It might not be useful all the time, especially if you're hitting small mobs, which you are probably going to be aiming for to wipe out the small mobs. You won't get this 15% crit rate a lot of the time, which means that your theoretical cap for crit rate is like 85%, because anything past that will likely be wastage in terms of crit rate if you go past this 80% HP threshold, which on bosses is very very often as well. And of course, last but not least, we have E6, which is a very strong skill on its own, but I don't like recommend people to spend money on games if they can't have the additional cash to splurge. Be financially prudent as well, and make sure that you know how you're spending your money as well. So in terms of E6, why it's so good is because when you have quantum damage, in terms of inflicting with the ultimate, you have this like debuff going on, and this is one turn on the enemy's turn, which means the faster Seele and her friends move, it means that they will be able to keep proccing this 15% very often of her ultimate damage, which already has some insane multipliers going on. So this is basically free damage, especially if you're running with like Welt in your team and Asta combo in terms of a speed up your team, speed down the enemy team, combined with Seele's own speed buff for herself. This is actually a very massive, and I'll probably be doing a video later on, like once I actually clear the game free to play already, and then I'll be making more guides on this as well for the future, just for fun. And last but not least, I want to talk about Lightcones and why weapon banner might not be very important for a lot of players. But before that, if you really found value in this video, do give a like and subscribe for more of such future content. It will really help this channel grow and reach out to more people as well. But now, let's get back into the Lightcone video. And if some of you might notice, if I just click this, you will see that I actually don't have a 5-star Lightcone for the Hun here, despite actually pulling on Seele's constellations in terms of her Eidolons to all the way to 6. And the very simple reason for that, actually, if I just need to go here, let's just go real quick to one location. And okay, for those of you who don't know, when you go into this Herta store right here, is basically anyone will get these tickets over time once you start clearing like the World 2, World 3 and stuff like that. There is this Hun Lightcone, there is a 5-star Lightcone right here, cruising in the Stellar Sea. What this gives is 8% crit rate and also 8% addition and increases their crit rate against enemies with HP that are less than 50% by an additional 8%. Of course, it gives additional like defeat enemy attacks increase. But what's more important is this gives you crit rate as well as it gives you 5-star Lightcone stats. So although of course her signature Lightcone is very much more value, but in terms of like the overall versatility of the account, this is basically free. You don't even have to spend any money to get this Lightcone. For a 5-star Lightcone with the 5-star stats, I think this is tremendous value already. And in my honest opinion, I think that most people should get this instead of, for example, pulling on the weapons banner for Seele, especially if you don't have additional pulls. And free to play generally should avoid this as well. I do definitely prefer the other one over this one here. Of course, this gives you more crit rate and more unconditional damage and stuff, maybe slightly better stats scaling as well, but still it's a lot of money, a lot of pulls for this. Definitely not worth it when you can get a 5-star stats free of charge from the Herta shop. So that, with that in mind, not all of us might be at World 3 yet. So what are the other options that we can use in the meantime? I think the best option right now in terms of like 4-star gear will probably be this Only Silence Remain. It gives you increased attack of 28%, and if there are 2 enemies or fewer, increases your crit rate. This kind of like mitigates, because she benefits when there are a lot of enemies, when she can eat the small mobs and go again, but this kind of like balances that out when there are less than 2 enemies. At least, even though she can't have that attack buff of going again, at least she is able to get a huge amounts of crit rate buff for herself as well. So that's like a trade-off in terms of that. I think this is really solid in terms of 4-star Lightcone. You can use the other ones in terms of like sword play. You can use river flows in spring and subscribe for more. I totally agree with that. And in a sense, these are also really strong Lightcones in terms of a 4-star stats, but I think the Dunheng one is significantly better. And in the very early game, if you're like Trailblaze 1 to maybe 20, you could consider running arrows as well to give you some crit rate. And the other Lightcones, for example, when the wearer defeats an enemy, you gain more speed, is okay also. But what I like is I think this Warcry darting arrow a bit more in terms of a kit, because when she defeats an enemy, she gets her own buff also, and this stacks up on top of that. She doesn't really need the crit early game. She doesn't get bonuses from critting. She just scales very well with crit. And also, this additional speed doesn't really matter too much for her, because she has very good inbuilt speed buffs herself, and also a lot of action advances when she eliminates a target and stuff like that. And if you guys like such content, I'll be definitely making more videos on other characters as well. Leave a comment below if you found it helpful, and thank you so much for watching. Do check out these other videos I have right here of like free to play units that are supportive in nature as well. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.